Oh no, we're intro.
This is gonna be an adventure on its own. All the people are gonna come, cause it's time for Big Creek Live. Mr.
Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to our fabulous live coaching and coaching topic personal development show called Peaceful Creativity. My name is David, and with me I have the esteemed Arny, coach extraordinaire, formerly of the music industry. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Hello, Arny. How are you today?
I'm good, David. Thank you. I don't know if I can match the incredible radio voice that for some reason you're producing. So, but keep it going. It's good. It's good.
All right. Well, we got an interesting show today. We're talking about patience and change. And this is a topic very relevant for me in my life right now. And as always, viewers, when you join us, please add your comments, add your questions, anything we say, share your experiences, because the more experiences we can share on the show, the more the better we can help other people. And also, if you want to be on the show and get coaching, get live coaching live with an issue you're having. In particular, Arnaud happens to be a master at helping people work with their creative expression and find their creative expression when they feel creatively stuck, whether that be at work, in a leadership role, or if you're an artist or something like this. That's what Arnaud is particularly good at. So you can come on the show and get some live coaching. Just contact us somehow. Oh, you know what? You got to go to the website there at peacefulcreativity.com/live and sign up for the emails, and then you can write to Arnaud and get on the show. Yeah? Everybody sound good? Sound great?
Yep.
Sounds great to me. How does that sound to you, Arnaud?
That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. But I mean, I don't want to. You're also an excellent coach. You've coached me several times, and a few of them were live. So if you would prefer to be coached by David, you can follow the same procedure, and we'll match you, or maybe we will double coach you
Oh
if
my
if
God,
that's
double
what you're into.
coach.
Double coach.
That's what you're into.
Um,
You and
but
me
yeah, I mean,
and
we've
him.
we've
That's
never
what you're into.
we've never done that live, and we'd be very happy to coach people live. And I think that would be of value for not only the person who's being coached, but also for all the viewers. So, as always, we need you to make this show as interactive and useful and pleasant as possible. So, thank you for anything that you will contribute. And following the tradition that we installed last episode, I will now ask David to check in on two areas of his life, uh, work life and private life, or non-work life. So David, how are you doing from 1 to 10 on each of these parts of your life?
Good question. I would say work-wise, I'm a 6. Personal-wise today, I feel like I'm a 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the number
Do you want to tell us
that's
why?
coming up. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what it's about. I think it's just because every once in a while there'll be some, because of the work I do, and because of the amount of time I spend examining it internally. There's oftentimes there'll be an emotion comes up that lasts for like maybe a couple days while I'm working with it. Sometimes I can integrate something, emotionally process something when it comes up like very quickly, like maybe just in one sitting of 15, 20, 30 minutes. But sometimes something lasts a couple days. And so I'm in one of those right now, and it's very much tied with my work, life actually. But in my work life, I'm very close to completing a big project and getting a new client starting next week. So this is So that feels good. But the thing that feels heavy with me is, this idea of, am I still working on the wrong things? You know, like, am I really working on the right things? And what does right things mean? What does that mean? But I have precious life energy, and I got this. I read in a book recently that there's this idea in Chinese medicine where if you're working on your purpose, like the thing that really matches you, you're just gonna have like your whole body is gonna be recruited in that process. You're gonna have all kinds of energy just moving through you. You're gonna have life force, energy, chi moving through you, and I haven't felt that fully like the past week. The past week I've been feeling like, less life force than normal, and I was I was just reflecting on that last night, and I was telling Katka, and she was like, "Well, that might not be true. Like, what is this rule that you have about, that you read somewhere that life, if you're working on your purpose, you get more life force?" I mean, she said, "I'm working on my purpose, but I have to pause all the time. Sometimes I work too much. I need a break. Sometimes I realize I want to go in a different direction. And I think there's this whole transition period that happens. So I could be one of those, especially because I'm getting more into the revolution, and we now have 8 members, and I'm still like, what is this supposed to be? Am I doing the right thing? Did I just create another project that's just going to fizzle somewhere, or is this actually going to go somewhere? So I think that's these things are weighing on me, and there's some underneath idea, some underneath feeling that I'm not working on the right thing. Like, it's almost like I'm not yet working on the right thing. Like, still I'm stuck. It's like that kind of feeling. And it's only a small part of me. Like, I know at the same time that I feel that, I also can hold my field the sense that I'm much bigger than that emotion. I can also at the same time can feel my sense of peace and my sense of love and my sense of connected to everything. At the same time as I feel that, I can feel my joy, because that's come from this like dual channel experience inside of me, has come over the years of processing. So I know that's all there, but I'm just much more sensitive than I used to be for any emotional disturbance that's going through. I mean, I've just processed so much that any emotional disturbance going through, I can feel very strongly now. And that allows me to also feel joy much more strongly. It's not just you get sensitivity for good or bad, you get sensitivity for everything. So, so when something comes up that I'm dealing with for a couple of days, I can feel like a 4. And that's the long answer to why I chose that number.
I mean, you've touched something very interesting, that all this work that we are doing, you and I, about emotional integration. Michael Brown says that it's not about feeling better, it's about getting better at feeling, and that's
Yes.
exactly what you expressed now. It's like, it's not like you're less sad for you. One could even say that at some point you're feeling the sadness even more, but you're also feeling the joy even more, and all the other subtlety of emotions of the emotional landscape. Everything is more intense, but where I envy you a little bit is that you manage to have this also this step back where you also feel the container to that. You feel like the basis, like the high self or the observer who sees everything, consciousness, who sees and observe all those different states, and you manage to feel that simultaneously as what's going on in the field of awareness. And I think that that's great, because it puts everything into perspective. As you just did right now, you're like, well, I feel 6 because I don't know if I'm knocking on the right doors, and then you explain why. But you also know that you're bigger than that, and that it's not you, it's not your identity, it's just something that goes through your life at the moment. And I think that's great.
Yeah, that's something I wish everybody could experience, because it started happening to me, I don't know, maybe last year, it started happening to me where I was feeling a really disturbing emotion, but at the same time, I mean, it was happening to me for a long time, this dual channel experience, but not solidly. Not it was only like every once in a while, but it started to happen really solidly, maybe last year. And what happens is like it gets to a point sometimes where if I can stay in that connected like oneness, just blank awareness state, and at the same time feel the emotion that's coming up, no matter what the emotion is, it can feel good. Like even if it's like anger or even if it's sadness or even if it's fear, it can actually on some level it feels good to just be with it, to just be there with it and it's moving through. So that is something I hope to help other people get to, because I feel like once you get to a point where no matter what emotions you're feeling, that you're still okay. That there's another part of you also that's experiencing, and you can go to that other part while the emotions are happening. It's almost like no emotion needs to stop you anymore. It's almost like you can handle so much more. So of course there are still places that I get stuck. Of course, there's still places where, where I have to, I'm nervous about doing something and I have to check myself and go into that space and let myself get into that space. I mean, there are things that pull me out of it all the time. I'm not there 100% of my waking hours, right? By any means, but it is very useful. It's very useful. And that, that comes from the processing, but it also comes from spending a lot more time in connection with that space in meditation or whatever way you can get there. Like the meta meditation we talked about last time, the loving kindness meditation, that's a great way to be put in that space. So yeah, and this is connected to patience because
it doesn't happen overnight,
yeah.
right? It's like it's long. As in any ambitious project, whether we're talking business project, creative project, or in that case, spiritual project or life project, for lack of a better word, it takes time, and it's important to know that it takes time and that we need patience. Patience is something that I'm teaching to my son, my 6 years old, already now. And the way I explain it to him is that I need patience every day, because there are stuff that I'm waiting, people who need to come back to me for something, proposal I send who stay unanswered longer than what I would like to. And dude, if I don't have patience, I'm getting crazy and nervous and anxious and so this is a key skill to develop very early, I think. But you were the one who brought this topic of patience today. So why don't you tell us what you had in mind and how it expressed itself in your life at the moment?
Well, I've been feeling impatient. I've been feeling impatient with trying to move ahead of where I am, to be ahead of where I am, both in these projects professionally, but also I'm trying to move house, and that process is going slower, much slower than I would like, so it's like, I know that everything is going to work out. Like I have the sense everything's going to work out, but there's a combination of excitedness and want to just be in a different place than I am. And so I have this impatience and my brain comes up with ideas like, oh, if we just take this action, we'll make things happen sooner. If we do this, it'll make things happen sooner. If we do this, it'll make things happen sooner. But most of the time, if I listen to those ideas, it's just a waste of energy. It just ends up like very rarely do those ideas actually move things. It just ends up me doing something, feeling like I'm doing something. And those tactics don't actually move the project forward or what I'm working on forward, And so when I get into my most quiet space, it's the idea, and I look at this patience idea, the idea is that everything is unfolding in exactly the right timing, in exactly the timing it needs to happen. And the reason I wanted to talk about it today is because it's happening to me personally, but it's also happening on a societal level, and maybe anyone watching you can share. Why don't you share with us the things you're impatient about right now, or the things you want to see change that you feel like you can't wait till that changes, and we can talk about dealing with that. Because there's big things happening in society that we want the COVID time to be over. A lot of people, when they just be totally done with masks already. I've heard that from so many people. Then there's the idea of like, there's the idea of like, what's the new society going to look like when we're finally beyond all this bull crap? You know what I mean? And I have impatience for that to happen. I think that's why I started the Revolution Project, because I'm just like, we need more people working right now on the new society we know is possible, and so I have impatience for that. And so there's big things to be impatient about. Of course, everything going on in the U.S. right now with racism. I mean, how long have people been waiting for those things to be changed? And how does our personal work and our patience connect with changes in our lives and societal changes? And I wrote, I did like a meditative journaling about this yesterday, and that's I often get interesting insights when I do that, and I get answers that seem to come through my journaling practice. And I got some interesting things came about patience. So, maybe we'll be able to share those too by the end of this call. But that's just what I wanted to bring up, because there's an interesting dynamic here when you're working with the universe between patience, perfect timing, and change. And there's a lot we could discuss. But what are your first ideas when you hear me talk about this?
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing this theme. You're patient because of this house change, and you notice that if you follow what your mind is telling you, that if you look at your past experience, most of the time what your mind told you just brought you to spend some energy without getting palpable results. And I like what you said about the societal changes, and how many people are impatient to get out of, whether it's COVID or racism or some expression of racism. What came to me when you were saying that is, as any negative emotions or impulse, impatience is not that bad. Impatience has its place, and impatience can bring action in the external world. So I don't follow the news, but based on what you and several people told me, there are a lot of manifestation now in the demonstration now in the US. People are impatient, and in other terms, they are tired of this shit, and now they are just letting their anger, their control them. And in that case, that's good, because it pushes them to action, to express what they really want, what they want things to stop, what they are impatient to see ended. And so I think when we feel impatience in our life, it's also good in a way that it's a data point that we can play with, Oh, I'm impatient for that, so this really matters to that. This housing situation, I thought it would be a luxury, but actually no, there is something in me that's really excited about that. So that's what came to me when you were sharing that.
I like that. I think you're right. Impatience is a data point, and it tells us maybe what we care about. Often when I find that I'm impatient with other people, it's often helpful to turn the question back onto myself. Like, what am I not doing that I could be doing to actually help the situation, And maybe that's what you're talking about on the societal level right now. People have had enough, and they realize, I can't wait any longer to do anything. I have to be part of the change happening.
Or the change.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but then here's the tricky part, right? Because as I express myself through words, action, behavior, in participating in this change, and the change maybe goes slower than I want, am I able to still know that that's okay too? Am I able to still realize I'm doing what I need to do, and it's happening in whatever timing actually fits.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
that part, yeah, that part is easy for me to get pulled out of that mindset. You know,
Okay, so regarding that, okay, so I'm impatient about something. I start to act, and then uh, results don't come immediately or to the extent that I would wish for. So there are several things there. It's tied to our expectation,
yeah,
and you taught me that expression without expectation is the key, but it doesn't always. I mean, nothing applies all the time. So this doesn't apply all the time neither. But well, I completely blanked on what I wanted to say.
I think
Well,
that's a really good point, though. I mean, we can start there. It's all right. You know, your point was so deep, your brain couldn't even handle it. I bet it'll come back up in a second. So the
probably, yeah.
yeah the idea, I think that's still advice that I love. You know, it's the advice of, you know, it came from a book about highly evolved beings, and it was talking about how highly evolved beings behave, and they behave in a way that where they're not focused on results, they're focused on their own expression, because they know they're part of an intelligent co-creation between themselves and every all other life, you know, between themselves and life, this intelligent process that's called life. And so they just focus on their part, which is their own expression, you know, not trying to control the results. And they know that whatever results come from that expression will be the perfect results based on the intelligence of all of life. So, you know, that feels good when I can get into that space. You know, that feels good. And that's where the idea of don't focus on the outcomes, focus on the expression, that's where it comes from. You know,
Mhm.
it comes
Yeah.
from the assumption that, first of all, the expression itself feels good. Even if you don't get the quote unquote results, the expression itself feels good when you're doing expressions that feel good. Because a lot of people, what they do is they think they need to get a result, and they do a bunch of shit that doesn't feel good to try to get that result, because they think the result is what they're looking for, but they're not. They're looking for feelings. They're looking to feel good. So if you focus on expressions that feel good, you'll start to feel good right away. And then
Yeah, yeah.
whatever results come, it's like bonus. It's like icing on a cake that you already got to eat. You know, it's like extra. It's like a second helping, you know? So this is where that idea comes from. That comes from that assumption, and it comes from the assumption that we're all connected. We're all one. So results are not just about you. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point that I tend to forget all the time. So to react to what you just said, I had this exact conversation with one of my clients today. The client has an ambitious creative goal, and it's going well. And she is doing the work and really enjoying doing the work and doing it consistently. But she was afraid of. She was thinking about like the end results. You know, oh, this is really big. Am I going to manage to do it until the end? I hope I won't get lost in the process. And I told her exactly what you just said now, that, you know, the process of doing it's like that she has the chance of having 1 or 2 hours every day of pure flow and happiness and creation. This is more important than the result, you know, and this is what I call peaceful creativity. You know, this is when you're aware of the gift that creating something that you love really is, you know. And so I remember what I had forgotten before. One of these, so there's two things. There's John Woo, and there is the game. So let's start with the game. The game is
Are you talking about
again,
Neil
that's a concept that
Strauss, the game?
no, not this one. No, not this game. Uh, the you say all the time that life is a game, you know, that our spirit come here and play the game of being human. And this is why it's normal. impatience and all our negative feelings are part of the game. We want change, and if we had everything we want immediately, the game would be boring as hell.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I wish I had $1 million. Ting. Oh, I wish I had ting ting. Okay, so what I have everything. What do I do now? Oh, I wish I could watch all the seasons of Lost. Okay, I've seen it immediately. Shit, I don't want that. I want to have internet who's
That's
not
your
working,
that's your
so I
wish
need to.
list. That's your wish list. It's like $1 million, all the seasons of Lost. Then or no. That's what he's looking for, guys. That's what he's working for. Somebody
You
out
got
there,
me.
just send him all the
You got
seasons of
me.
Lost on a thumb drive or something. Okay, just send it to us so he can have his wish fulfilled. So he,
Yeah, but then it will be, oh, I wish I had the time to watch Lost.
yeah,
So and I'm glad it's like that, because black and white and light and dark, there's no, we need to have things that we are impatient about, so that's the excitement is there. And that's all part of the game. And John Woo, the first thing I wanted to talk about is something that I started talking about that way before I was a coach, when I was like a teenager, and I was one of the first of the pack to get a girlfriend. So some other guy came to me, how did you get a girlfriend? And I told them John Who, you know, if you focus on just one person and she's going to be my girlfriend, and you just focus on one, then you put a lot of pressure on yourself and a lot of pressure on her. Because if this doesn't work, oh my God, my life is over. But if you're like in a John Woo movie where you have two guns, they're like you, shooting in all direction, then every like there is less pressure on both sides, and you're much more cool because you know that you're trying this and this and this and this. So if she said no, well, maybe this one will say yes, and this apply to everything. So when you're impatient about something, just well, I now all of a sudden I don't like my metaphor. I was going to say shoot on something else.
no,
But
I like
that's what I
that.
do with my. But that's what I do with my clients. Like if I made a proposal to a client, and I can either be like focus on and do and get really needy and keep sending message to that client, answer me, or I can say, okay, I provided value, I asked the question, now I will trust that person and just go to the next and to the next and to the next and to the next. And this helps a lot with impatience.
I
Always,
think that's
you're
yeah.
always because
Go
no,
ahead.
no, sorry, just to conclude, because you stay in the excitement, and sometimes the impatience is still there, but again, it's part of the game.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a really that's a really good idea. Like if you're feeling impatience about something, if that is a good question you could ask yourself is, okay, well, I feel like I can't move. There's nothing I can do in this place right now. I just have to wait. Okay, well, okay, then where do I want to put my energy? Because I still have life force energy. It's still right here. So where can I redirect it? What's the next thing? Where can I put it where I feel where I can get some movement, or where can I put it in something that's fun? Basically, in this moment right now, where I am in the present moment, what feels good to do?
Yeah.
Because obviously, because it doesn't feel good to just be staring at the thing that's not moving. So what feels good to do in this moment? Put the energy there, and because everything is connected, if you create some movement in a second part of life, also some movement is happening in the thing you're impatient about.
Yeah, yeah, and things take time. Especially if I mean, if I stay on and then I'm going to give a counter example, because yesterday I did the opposite of that and I had a really bad day, but it made for a good insight. But like, if you just focus on WhatsApp and is this client is going to reply or not, you're having a bad time at the moment. But like doing something else, putting your energy elsewhere, can be as simple as, okay, so I did that part of the work. I wish that person would answer now, but I cannot do anything for that except sending needy messages who won't help me. So I'm just going to go outside and take a walk. I'm just going to do something else, put my energy elsewhere. And then things take time. So that person will receive the message, read it, maybe his or her phone will ring and will bring him to something else. So maybe he will think about answering in 1 week, and that's okay. So just do something else meanwhile.
Yeah. Mm. Can I read you what I wrote about the patience? A little bit of it. I'd love to get your reaction
Yeah,
to it, and maybe
sure,
some
sure.
viewers as well. You can give us a reaction or
Yeah,
question.
guys, while David prepares what he wrote, this is a live show, so if you have some questions, if you want to tell us what you're impatient about, what you want to change, what you want to see change in, or if you want to react to all these things that we're talking about, just write it and it will appear on the screen. And now here comes David. What's the magical journal, the higher self journal brought to you?
Yes. What it brought me is this: patience is automatic when you have understanding. Understanding of what? That even that each moment is significant enough, so full enough, and such a gift enough that you would never want to put your attention anywhere else. Patience is just an extension of understanding presence. It's automatic. Not having patience is like being stuck in a reality you don't want. You're noticing a lack that your mind thinks will be fixed, and then you hurry, or you want to hurry and fix it. Hurry is never needed. If you have to hurry all the time, it's a sign you are valuing the future more than the present. This makes it more difficult for you to feel satisfaction and joy that is naturally here. The idea that patience is a virtue is not entirely accurate. Patience is a consequence. It's a natural, welcome consequence that you don't even have to think about when you allow yourself to feel the fullness of the present moment. The present moment is so full, so useful, so connected to your well-being, your growth, your evolution, your power, your insight, that if you let yourself feel all this, you would never want to leave it.
Yeah, man, focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah, like when I hear you say it like that, it's really being impatient is, in a way, focusing on the wrong thing. And it can go at different levels, as we were talking about before. Instead of focusing on what you wish would happen now, you can focus your energy elsewhere. But what you wrote, it's like next level. It's like focusing your attention on life, on presence, on being, on this state of consciousness that we are all in. And that's like that's like the next level of play. It's like being able to, in a snap, come back to the present and be like, well, what do I have to be impatient about? Everything is here already. So that's really a matter of focus. Yeah.
It's really interesting the words you just used. You said, it makes me think of focusing on the wrong thing. And that's exactly why I said I was a 4 to start the conversation, because I'm not sure I'm focusing on the right thing. And so the insight I'm having right now from what you said is that, yeah, I wasn't focusing on the right thing, because there's no answer to the question of what should I be focusing my energy on and trying to answer that in advance. There's no good answer to that. Any answer will always feel on some level dissatisfying, because that's not a question that's rooted in me being present right now. The answer to the question is what should I focus on is the present moment.
Yeah, always.
And then I don't have to worry about it.
It's always the same answer.
I did have
This shit is boring, man.
Yeah, seriously, spirituality is so boring. It always goes back to the same answer.
Shit. I have relationship problem, focus on the present. I have money problem, focus on the problem. What to focus on the present? It's always the same fucking answer, man.
Ooh, we got a great we got a comment. Yes, I'm gonna put a comment on screen. Here we go. Comment
Cool.
from Claudia.
I cannot see.
Okay, I'm gonna, since you can't see it. Hello, Claudia. She said that was amazing. Hurrying let present know that is insufficient for you to love it. That's a really interesting idea. Maybe we also think that the future holds something that will make us be worthy of love. Oh man, Claudia, you're talking my language. That's a beautiful, beautiful insight bomb there. So let's talk about that, Arno. What do you think? Let's take her first sentence. Being is letting the
Uh,
present know that it is insufficient for us to love it.
yeah, it's a matter of focus. Like we are not like, yeah, magic is happening every second, every time, and we're like, no, that's not good enough for me. I want this imaginary figure that's over there. And then what Claudia writes is basically because there everything is okay. Because there in the future I am loved, complete. And this is bullshit, right? This is we don't need to wait to be there in order to be loved, to feel loved, be complete. This is the gift. Again, always answer focused on the present. This is where love and completude are hidden.
Yes.
So
Yes, and
amazing.
she was talking about our feelings of being complete, worthy, and whether we're projecting that into some future or not, or whether we're willing to feel it here. But she also is talking about what are we communicating to the present moment about it when we're rushing. She's saying that when we're rushing, we're communicating to life that it's not that right now is not worthy of our full attention. And that's really interesting idea, because if we're communicating life all the time, right now is not worthy of my attention. I mean, think of all the if we really believe that like what you put out there is what you get back, that what you're holding in your own perspective and reality is what you see in the world, and what you give, you receive, If we're really saying that like, oh no, what I see in front of me, that's not worthy for my attention, then how are we going to ever experience the sense of that worthy coming back to us? If we're constantly telling life it's not worthy the way it is right now.
Yeah, I don't think the life is passive aggressive like that.
No, and it's not. No, it's
I
not passive
I
aggressive.
think life is just. I mean, the way I see life or the universe or presence is like, okay, so if presence would talk, it would say, okay, now I see that Arno, instead of enjoying the moment, is thinking about this stuff in the future or this stuff that he doesn't have. And I imagine presence be like, oh, not like, oh, you're not looking at me, then I'm going to fuck you up. I
No.
don't imagine
Okay,
presence.
I agree. I agree. I do not think presence is like little bitch. Okay, I don't think that. All right. But I don't think I'm not saying it's presence doing anything to you. Okay. But what I'm saying is it's you doing it to you, because everything you're holding
Yeah,
inside gets reflected outside. This is what I'm
yeah.
saying. Everything you're holding inside is what you see in your reflection of the external world. So it's not presence doing it to you, but if
Okay, all right.
if you are telling the present moment it's not worthy, that's probably because you don't feel worthy in the present moment yourself. So it's just a projection. It's like getting angry at someone else for you know, like getting angry at a friend for showing up late
For
when
anything. Yeah, yeah.
when you're in a showing up late when you need to be somewhere else and you don't have a lot of time with them or something. You get mad at them for showing up
Yeah.
late. But did you check in with yourself about, like, did you set that boundary? Were you clear about that? Did you make the request that make sure to let's be on time because they don't have so much time with you? Your anger is really, you're angry at yourself about something. So
Yeah.
this idea that Claudia is saying that, like, when we're rushing, we're telling the life that in this moment is not worthy of our complete attention and our love. That's probably a reflection of how you feel about yourself on some level. That just being how you are right now, just being in the present moment is not, you're not worthy. You should be somewhere else.
Completely agree to that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
and
presence is like, well, yeah, well then
this.
fuck you, then fuck you. I'll just fuck you. Here's a bird, shit in your face. I don't know.
This is the quotes episode. I don't think presence is a little bitch, David Papa.
Uh, Thank you, Claudia. That was a
Thank you,
beautiful,
Claudia.
beautiful contribution to
Yeah.
the show. You took our show up. I don't know what our show rated before your comment, but after your comment, it went up at least two.
Okay. So, okay. All right. So, shall we talk about change?
Yeah. Well, we kind of have
We
been.
start. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, because the show is titled Patience and Change. So, there are a lot of changes constantly happening. There are a lot of changes now happening in your what?
No, sorry, keep going. Keep going.
Uh, there are a lot of changes now happening in your country, David, and or people asking for changing. And I did a conscious effort not to like not to be aware of that. I don't know why, but but it keeps coming to me, like you're the fourth or fifth person to tell me about some of these changes happening. So I guess the question that could be interesting is what can we do about it on an individual, maybe spiritual level, according to you, about those changes happening in your country at the moment?
Well, there's no one answer to that. There's no one specific action. But the thing I would say all the time is that what your heart is telling you on the inside that feels to you like your truth, that feels to you like your most authentic expression, that is the thing that is the greatest benefit to the whole. That's the thing that actually helps us create change collectively. So if in your heart, your truth, your truest action, the action that feels the most true and aligned and resonant, and I mean, you could say exciting, but not from like a, yeah, so excited perspective, but from like a, oh my gosh, I feel like I really must do this, feeling, coming from your heart, not your head, coming from your heart. That is information that is not just about you. That's information that's coming from your connection to the whole, from your connection to the collective. I really believe this with all my heart. I believe this just 100% that we're all connected and our heart is sensing that connection all the time. Our heart is in flow with the information of life as a whole. And what's coming through our heart is the perfect match for us and what life is asking of us in that moment. So for some people that could look like protesting. For some people that could look like praying. For some people that could look like sharing stuff on Instagram like people have been doing. I also don't watch the news. I found out about what's going on in the US because my brother lives there, and we have our family discussion, family chat every week that we started during the COVID time. And, the protest happened right near my brother's building where he lives in Philadelphia. In fact, just down the block from him, some stores got smashed and a big fire was
Oh,
started
wow.
in a building. So, I'm getting this information from him, and it's just like each of us do have a role to play. Each of us do have a role to play in everything that's happening right now. But what happens most of the time is we make up what that role is in our head. We put all this pressure on ourselves. We try to do everything right and perfectly. We decide that certain things are wrong and certain things are right. We watch other people doing things and we judge them. We say, oh no, that's not how you be anti-racist. You're just contributing to the problem. And we have this whole mental structure about how it's supposed to work, what's supposed to happen, and none of that is true. The only answer is what is our heart's truth, what feels like our heart's greatest expression, and that is going to be the thing that helps the most. That's what I think. That's how I move through life. That's what I coach people on. That's what I think that's what's helped me the most in my life by far to make any changes I want in my life is going there.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm thinking about the first thing when you were telling that, the first thing that came to me was I'm thinking it from the other side, from the point of view of the racists, because there are people as well. And I thought, so what does it mean? Does it mean that their heart is telling them to shoot black people or to hate black people or to be violent? Or is it that they cannot access to this information which is in their heart? And I believe it's the latter, that they cannot access this information in their heart because, I mean, you and I have been training for years for this stuff, and it's still difficult sometimes to access this information. You need to know, you need to have some exercise, and you have a support system of friends and mentors and coaches and mastermind to remind you that, to look for the answers in your heart. And even then, it's not easy to do, and we forget, on a daily basis almost. You need to be reminded on a daily basis. So I'm like, how can someone who think that spirituality is bullshit, like that there's zero interest in that, how can one person connect to their hearts to do the right thing for the whole, as you said? And as I'm saying that, I'm amazed that we've come this far as a species, because there was so much violence, there was so much violence over the decades and horrible stuff. Okay, I need to make a side. Okay, I need to talk about sheeps, like the animal.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm in a village now. So we find distraction how we can for the kids, and there are some sheep. So we go there and we watch them. And I thought it was gonna be like the nice sheeps, like Shaun the Sheep, and it's fun. Oh no, it's cute. But no, man, that's violence. There is a mom, and she rejected one of her baby, and she would give milk just to one and not to the other. And that baby, who's a little bit smaller, is bullied by other lambs. Is bullied by his dad, because like the owners, they come with some milk and they give him the milk through the fence, and the dad kind of do is that stuff. I don't know how to call a male sheep.
Good. Yeah, like a ram.
A ram. So he's ramming his son like that. That's horrible, man. If there was no human interaction, they would have killed this baby. Nature, there is a lot of violence in nature. And there is a lot of violence in us because we're part of nature. We're just another species with a slightly different brain structure that allows us to be self-conscious and to basically fuck up the tigers and the other threats that we had. So when I think about that, I'm amazed that we come this far as a species, and that we manage, without having this knowledge of spirituality or the right techniques, we manage to love each other enough not to kill each other, to this point. So it must be somewhere, there must be a way in these racist people's hearts to make the connection with their heart and to do the right thing.
Yes. First of all, there is violence in nature. But one of the things that's different with nature's violence, I mean, humans are part of nature. We're not separate from nature. But one thing we have is the ability, because of our minds, we have the ability to act outside of our sense of balance. We know that all mammals have emotions. We know that, and so they're feeling what to do. They're feeling what to do and going on instinct. And some mammals have some great logical capacities, so does birds. But they don't do things that create disharmony. On some level, the violence of nature, a lion eating a gazelle, a family of sheep rejecting one offspring. On some level, that violence in nature is part of nature's overall balance. But humans, you don't use violence for balance. Humans use violence for their own ends. Humans use violence for their own projections of what's good and bad and right and wrong, and animals don't have that. So we, just like everything we do, we take it to the extreme because of our minds. And our society is based around the head. Since Descartes, basically Newton, and the quote unquote Enlightenment, which is a scientific period where like the scientific method was developed, basically, the scientific foundation of the modern day, starting in the Renaissance and continuing. We've created a whole society that's just focused on the head and logic, and we've created a faith in science, and it's not really that different from a faith in anything else, because science can't prove its own validity. Science can't use the scientific method to prove the scientific method works. We just use the scientific method because it's the best tool we have to see things move, to make conclusions. But the scientific method requires that all the pieces of something be separated to their individual component parts so that you can find causation between one specific thing and another thing. That's what the scientific method is based on. And that's why it's so difficult to have good science about nutrition, to have good science about disease, because the human body does not work with one component interacting with another component, and nature does not work with one component interacting with another component. It works based on an ecosystem. The scientific method is good for measuring like one ball smacking into another ball, but it's really difficult to understand what's going on an ecosystem level. With a scientific method, we can just take measurements, but the actual cause of things is hard to determine because everything is so intertwined and interconnected. So we have a whole society based around that, and people from the very early age, they get taught you don't have to have your own answers. You need to regurgitate other people's answers. That's what school is. Sit quietly, learn other people's answers and repeat them on a test, and do that for every subject. And that's, sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. I mean, when would that ever be natural for a kid to do? But this is how we grew up. And so the voice of the heart is always there. It never goes away. The heart is has the most patience. The heart is the most patient, our most patient intelligence. but the thing is that it doesn't speak loudly. It's just a constant, quiet voice that never goes away. But we have a whole society set up to make our mind scream at us. We have a whole society set up to trigger all of our, compulsions, all of our addictions, to get our mind to scream at us to do things like shop or whatever we're addicted to, using our phones, drugs, sex, whatever. So our whole society is set up basically in a way that drowns out the voice of the heart. But what is actually in someone's heart, we can never say. What is actually in that person's true harmony, we can never say. And that's a really tough, we have to end the show now, but this is a whole other topic that we kind of talked about on your podcast, where we talked about suicide, and we talked about suicide bombing on your podcast. And, this kind of overlaps with that idea, because, we see that racism is destructive. It seems to be destructive and disharmonious. What if 100 years from now, we're living in a really enlightened society, and we look back and we realize that the man who was killed recently by the police is the reason we were able to finally transition into a more enlightened society? Would we say that was a bad thing that happened? Would we say that was that shouldn't have happened? Who knows what it's going to take for us to get, I'm not saying I want it to happen. But I'm also saying that there is a process happening here. Life is a process. And from my perspective, it's a divine process. And we are playing a role in that process, and we cannot see the whole picture. So the best we can do is just get in our hearts and live from our heart and help other people do that. And not by forcing them, but by being the living example. You know, like, have you ever seen that? Have you ever heard about that black guy who goes to Ku Klux Klan rallies and he sits down and has lunch with Ku Klux Klan members and he talks to them?
Yeah.
He has a TED talk. He has a TEDx talk. It's amazing the work he's done. He's totally changed certain white communities by his willingness to go there non-judgmentally and be that presence of understanding. Completely changed their communities. So, you know, we can't always tell the best way forward, you know, and sometimes maybe we need to access that energy of anger, and we act out in that anger, and maybe that moves things forward. And sometimes we got to act in the energy of love, and that moves things forward. I mean, look at what Gandhi did through a completely peaceful revolution, you know. So we don't know. We have to just dip into our hearts over and over again and be the living examples that helps other people do the same. I'm sure you want to comment on it like that, like crazy, Arno. We have another comment from Claudia, so you can decide what you want to do if you want to.
Always our dear viewers first.
Okay, let's see what she said. In that case, humans' rotten will is more powerful than universe's perfect will? Question. If we are co-authors on an individual level, we are also at a race level. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what she's saying there, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
But she's saying humans' rotten will. And
rotten? Like rotten will?
Yes, yes. She's saying in that case, humans' rotten will is more powerful than the universe's perfect will. She's asking a question. I think I kind of dovetailed toward that at the end of what I was saying. I was saying that there's like a divine intelligence going on here. And what I'm saying is that you know, how you exercise whatever free will you have, what place are you exercising that from? You know, are you exercising it from your mind, your triggers, your conditioning, or are you exercising it from your heart? That's the question. And I think that when we exercise our hearts, actually what's happening is we're lining up our will with divine will, if there is such a thing. We're lining up our hearts with the harmony of life. So, you know, it's not black or white for me. Nothing is black or white for me.
So we need to end the show. I just want to react on one thing that you said. I want to read 5 things that you said. I will just react on one. Because you said something that takes balls to say. Everything that happens, all the stuff that now we're talking about racism in the US, but everything really, the death of people, the illness, like the imbalance, what we see as imbalance of the world, it's part of as you said, in 100 years. We can look back and say, well, if this didn't happen, then this didn't happen, and we wouldn't have this amazing stuff that everyone is happy about at the moment. And we can see it if we look back, you know, we can. I mean, look at Jesus, you know, if he wasn't happy being tortured and killed on the cross or whatever happened to him, you know, but like it had a lot of positive things thanks to that, you know, and don't want to go into the details, the good and bad of religion, etc. But like this message of love, which is important, you know, has been shared for a long time, and this is and closer to us, you know. Here in the Czech Republic, there is one dude who set himself on fire for a cause, and
Yes.
now 100 years later, they are still talking about that.
Yes.
And but it sucks when it happens to you. It's your mother, or your mother, your girlfriend who's killed. It sucks to it's horrible to say you care about how it will be 100 years from now, because it hurts, you know. And I think that when it touches us personally, this is very challenging, not to let the anger control us and trigger us and just go and do some reactionary things, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it takes balls to remember that yes, even the bad things that happened, they are part of a certain plan, and they might have positive effect 100 years from now, 50 years from now, or in the future.
Yeah.
And as of Claudia's comment about humans' rotten wheel, I think that humans' rotten wheel are part of the universe wheel as well. You know, which there is a certain vanity to think that we're above. You know, you told it, David, earlier. Humans are part of nature, so in a certain way, us polluting the oceans and producing way too many plastic and being completely shitty to planet Earth is part of planet Earth's plan or the universe plan as well. And again, we don't know how, we don't know why, and maybe in 100 years we'll all be like, "Oh, I'm so glad that we polluted the ocean. We polluted this ocean. If we hadn't, then we wouldn't have found a cure for cancer or whatever. You know, we wouldn't have found out Tulu was about to awaken, and you know." So these are difficult topics because imagine you are a victim of something bad. Like let's keep this example. Like someone. It's your brother who was killed by a racist cop. This is your role. Like the sensibility is high. You don't want to hear that. Oh, but 100 years is going to be great, you know. But if so, I think it's important to think about it in advance, so that when your life is impacted, you can use that as a way to grieve more easily, maybe, or to be like, okay, then hopefully it didn't die in vain.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets us back to the present moment, what you're saying, you know? Like that question about...
It's always the
Damn
same
it!
fucking answer.
Damn it!
Oh, we stop the show, man. It's always the same. Guys, if you have a problem in your life, go back to the present moment.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you, bye.
Thanks. That's every episode from here forever. That's our answer. So, because... that question, what's going to happen 100 years from now? I mean, obviously, we're not going to live to see that. Well, I don't know. Maybe we will, but probably not.
I mean, yeah.
So
you and I know, but we're not going to say it, right? We agree.
Yeah. So, but the value of that is bring the feelings into the present moment, next to whatever else you're feeling in the present moment. You know, whatever you're feeling in the present moment is valid. Your emotions are valid. You know, that's showing you what you have inside. Your emotions are part of you. Feeling your emotions fully is one of the ways you feel fully alive. That's one of the ways you can feel fully alive. If you're cutting off your own emotions, you're never going to feel fully alive. You know, emotions are the fundamental aspect of the human's physical experience. You know, the question is, when it comes time for you, what feeling, and you being able to sit in those feelings and know that that's all valid, all the anger, all the, you know, sense of injustice, you know, all the feeling like this is not okay, that's all valid, those feelings. Then the question is, what's the act? What's the response? And are you going to respond from that place, or are you going to respond from other parts of you that are there as well? Like the part of you that is pure awareness, the part of you that is pure love, the part of you that is pure joy. Because those parts of you have different ideas about how to respond, even when something bad really happens. And I think the biggest change creators that we've ever seen, positive change, you know, change that we would say is positive. The biggest positive change creators we've ever seen on this planet are the ones that have looked at a really dire situation and chose to respond from the part of themselves that was still love. You know, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, you know, you could say Jesus. I mean, even Buddha, you know what I mean? Buddha's whole goal was to eliminate suffering. He saw so much suffering around him. And so he went on a quest to find how to stop suffering. And what his discovery was that inside of us, we have a place that is just pure bliss and you wanted to help other people how to get there. And from that place, you do things in the world that help create more bliss for other people.
Yeah.
You know, so we can't know what's really right and wrong. And all our judgments about that just cause so many problems. But in your heart, there's something that feels like love and harmony. And if you act from that, that's your best chance, in my opinion, of actually creating the lasting change, not from deciding what's right and wrong.
There's no better last final words for this episode, David. Thank you very much for that. David, can we agree that next episode will be next Tuesday? Are you Tuesday?
Let's agree. Let's agree. I'm not sure because of
Okay.
because of a new course I'm taking that I'm excited about. So we're gonna have to have an offline conversation about it.
Okay, so we're going to have an offline conversation. If you want to have an online conversation with us, subscribe to the links which are below us, and like us on, follow us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, do all this kind of stuff, and write us. We love to have comments and questions. And thank you so much, Claudia, for what you wrote today.
So
As David, it really brought us into a whole conversations. Now we're finishing late, thanks to you. Yeah, what else is important? The show is called PeaCreaLive. We are there every week. We are still figuring out the schedule. We love to have your questions. And David, final words again for you.
my final word is that I am going to commit to next Tuesday because we talked about it, and I can watch the recording of the course. So next episode, 1 week from today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll tell you in our normal ways, which are sometimes useful and sometimes not, but we'll tell you. The show is coming up a week from today, our next episode. Thank you so much for joining, everybody who joined today. We had a great energy from the comments we got, beautiful comments. So thanks, Claudia, and anybody else watching, and all you people who watched after it was live. Hey, and if you want to get that live coaching on the show, that's a serious offer. We want to do live coaching on the show. We're going to do more live coaching on the show of each other and others, because this is a coaching related show. So thank you so much, everybody. See you next time. You ready for the outro,
Thank
Arno?
you, guys. Yes. Bye.
Play the outro.